This is a story about the end of reality. Not the end of the world, but the end of the idea of one consensus world. Diving in, let's nod to Alan Watts, who once said, "There's no sense in clinging to the rocks that are falling with you." Fictions make us human, and always have. Starting 40,000 years ago with the Loyenmensch sculpture, a lion-headed man carved from mammoth bone, we've lived in our imaginations. Reality only exists in contrast with, and has always required, the unreal. In the last few hundred years, we've moved from trust and hearsay in recordings as photography and phonography matured and became admissible as court evidence, allowing us to get strangely lazy about what it is we consider authentic. Philosopher Regina Rini of York University calls this the epistemic backstop. It's part of what has allowed us to scale social coordination from local networks to a global economy. But it's a prosthetic that has eroded other vital capabilities. Over the last few years, thanks to NVIDIA, Adobe, Google, OpenAI, and others, we've seen an explosive evolution of machine learning tools that produce real-seeming but fraudulent synthetic media. By now, most people have seen BuzzFeed's Jordan Peele Barack Obama deepfake, or the countless Mark Zuckerberg and Vladimir Putin deepfakes. And it's clear how easily these could be deployed and will be deployed as political weapons. But there are subtler issues with apps like Zao and Reface, which let you put your own face into movies and music videos, democratizing this for masquerade, but opening an attack vector for identity theft. Synthetic video is concerning, but vocal forgery may be even more worrisome because fewer people are aware of how sophisticated it has gotten. In my 2017 sci-fi short story, An Oral History of the End of Reality, I imagined how you may one day soon risk having your voice stolen simply by answering the phone. The escalating arms race between forgery and forensics is really just a continuation of the forces that drove humankind to pioneer modern science in the first place. After all, the more perspectives in agreement, the better. There is a silver lining here in that this undercuts our arrogance, bringing scientific rigor home to roost and forcing us to ask sophisticated questions about our confidence in so-called facts. New conceptions of reality will be far more nuanced and multidimensional than those of the present day. But for now, the threats are apocalyptic, and new literacy is desperately needed. Only a few projects, such as Michael Morgenstern's "I Dared My Best Friend to Ruin My Life," have emerged to help people understand how to navigate these vertiginous new social landscapes. But lying is nothing new, and people have always abused trust. It's already the case that world powers act as if reality is what you make it. Just look at the explosion of fake news. Our conceit that recordings are more trustworthy than hearsay is a huge exploit in the code of society. Collective action problems require a narrative cohesion to weave the social fabric of our future, and the manufacture of convincing counterfeits is a kind of black magic. By all accounts, it's fair to say that information warfare is magical warfare, which means the end of the modern hubris of naive realism and requires us to reclaim some aspects of pre-modernity. Living in the future may ultimately feel more like living in a world of an indigenous cosmology, in which the imaginal is on equal ontological footing with the physical world. Which brings us to the pragmatism of fiction. Most of the brain doesn't differentiate between the real and the unreal, which is why fiction is so powerful, why first theater and now cinema have held such power over us. Visualization exercises are a mainstay of wisdom traditions worldwide, an ancient tool to develop and internalize our highest potentials. The modern world is simply waking up to the instrumental nature of fictions as a force for shaping collective behavior. For instance, artist Stephanie Lepp's project Deep Reckonings makes explicit deepfakes of powerful abusers taking responsibility for their actions, helping us imagine what it would look like for them to assume accountability and maybe even moral leadership. Other projects like Dali Lives bring history back to life. MIT's Deep Empathy motivates human rights action by showing us ruined versions of privileged cities, putting the affluent in the shoes of those suffering from global catastrophe. Deepfakes can help us imagine better versions of ourselves, much like the established use of mirrors in physical therapy to trick the brain into imagining wounded body parts as whole. The fact is, we have always lived in our imagination, and reality is the most pernicious and dangerous fiction of them all. Deepfakes may make it harder for us to agree on which myths we should act on, but the real world was always a mirage, and we only stand to gain by leaving it behind. Thank you.